In the last session, we explored how Mary was generous with her time. She could have used the time for herself, but she willingly gave it up for Jesus. But time is not the only thing she was generous with. She was generous with her attention too. Let's review John 12:3 again, which says, Mary took a pound of costly perfume made of pure nard, anointed Jesus' feet, and wiped them with her hair. I think this type of generosity with attention, is particularly important for us. We live in a world where we are bombarded by news, opinions, information, gossip, worries, insecurities, you name it. We see literally hundreds of adverts every day, way more than we can cope with or comprehend. It's easy, therefore, to then drift through life. Indeed, it is quite a good coping strategy. When your brain is overwhelmed by so many things, it makes sense to zone out and not notice anything. Faced with this, being generous with attention is a generosity for our times. I find it remarkably easy to be present and yet absent at the same time. I can, undeniably, be physically present, while my mind is very much elsewhere. It's easy to be in the same space as someone, but not really with them, with my mind roaming aimlessly across the mental landscape. And the smartphone has only made this worse. Now it's even easier to be looking in on one world whilst physically inhabiting a different one. I've seen, more than once I'm ashamed to say, that chastening look given when someone sees you on the phone when they thought you were listening to them. So I'll be honest, I think this generosity is acutely important for our time, and also something I'm not very good at, with so much to learn. Let's return to the scene. Jesus knew the trajectory of where his life was heading. As he says later in the same chapter, "Now my soul is troubled. And what should I say? Father, save me from this hour? No. It is for this reason that I have come to this hour." Gethsemane and crucifixion await. A body tortured and beaten. Meanwhile, however, Mary, probably sensing that Jesus was troubled, focuses her attention on Jesus and ends up providing comfort to a body that will soon suffer unimaginably. She's not with Jesus absent-mindedly. She's an active participant, present and engaged. Her attentiveness towards Jesus leads her to anoint his feet with nard. A quick digression, if I may. To me, nard sounds uncomfortably close to lard, used by my grandmother for making outstanding Yorkshire puddings, but not something I would see as a delicate perfume. In reality, nard is happily nothing like lard. It's an incredibly expensive natural oil. It's known for its calming qualities and is often used for reducing anxiety. Mary's choice was quite profound, and it came from her attentiveness. She chose a perfume that, yes, was expensive, and we will come on to that in a later session. It's worth mentioning now, though, that in the retelling of this story in John's Gospel, this is what Judas focuses on: how much it cost, not what it meant. But Judas Iscariot, one of his disciples, the one who was about to betray him, said, "Why was this perfume not sold for 300 denarii and the money given to the poor?" He knows the cost of everything and the value of nothing. Interesting to note too that straight after this story in Matthew's Gospel, where Jesus admonishes Judas for criticising the waste of money, Judas then goes and asks the chief priests what they would give him for betraying Jesus. They agree to pay him 30 pieces of silver, roughly a quarter of the value of the nard. But the remarkable thing about nard is not how much it cost, but how perfectly it fitted the situation and what Jesus needed and would provide comfort. If you've ever smelled nard, you will know it is a powerful and strong aroma. I remember bringing some to give out during a children's talk at church and watching the look of horror on their faces as they were confronted with it. It was used as a burial oil for a reason. But it is perfect for this purpose, reducing anxiety. And when life turns so brutally, and when he is abandoned by the other disciples, Jesus will continue to smell the nard upon him, and so be reminded of those who love him. So the generosity of attention led her to choose the nard, and her generosity meant she lavished it upon him. Her attentiveness is also needed in the act itself. She's clearly focused on the task of anointing Jesus' feet and then wiping his feet with her hair. That requires real care and attentiveness. She's very much physically and mentally present. The gift of the anointing is made meaningful by the attention with which it is given. When we are looking to develop a generous life, Mary's attentiveness shows us that the attention we give people is an important part of that life. To love others is to give them our attention and focus, to be utterly in that moment, to really know them. This is so important for our discipleship and our ministry, both individually and collectively as a church. Our attentiveness enables us to really see how we can love and care for others. It is that complete focus of attention that enables us to understand and to know someone, and to know how to care for them. To be loved is to be known. And Psalm 139 describes this beautifully. O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from far away. You search out my path and my lying down, and are acquainted with all my ways. Attention to others echoes the attention God has for us. As Jesus says in Luke 12, God counts the hairs on our head. Attention allows us to understand someone's needs, to see where they need encouragement, and to celebrate the gifts that God has given them. Being generous simply with our time cannot do this. We need to be generous with our attention too.